Hello.
Hello,
Good
Eliana.
afternoon.
Hello,
How are you?
good afternoon. Good.
We meet again.
Yeah, really. We meet again.
Okay, shall we start then? Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our seminar, which has been entitled EFL Teaching, What's Next? We welcome each of you. I'll be hosting this event, and I also like to take this opportunity to introduce Victor Robledo, who is going to be helping me during this session. Both of us work for Providencia branch. We are both academics and professors at university, and we've been working for quite some time on the new research team, and we've been exploring the role of technology and how to help students learn languages in terms of multimedia presentations and other software programs. Now, as you can see here, we've got the following program for today. We'll be doing a short opening discussion with all of you. Later on, I will introduce our speaker. Okay, we've got the honor to have Professor Miguel Farías. I'll be introducing him to you in a little while. He'll be presenting an interesting talk on ELT, and that can be interesting for most of you during this session. And then we'll have a kind of question session or discussion roundtable, so you can ask either Victor, Miguel, or me. So, you may address some of the questions and activities, okay? And then we'll have the closure towards the end of the seminar. So to begin with, this talk will be based on before, during, and after the pandemic, particularly in terms of language teaching, EFL teaching. And we'd like to share 4 key questions based on papers and then based on research studies and what we've been facing in different seminars and webinars and courses for the last year and a half or so since COVID-19 took over. So these are some of the questions. I'll be reading some of them, and then we'd like to hear any of you who'd like to probably share a few views about any of the 4 questions. So the first question is, what have you learned from your experience teaching 100% online? The second question is, what have you focused on during remote teaching? The content may be, your methodology, interacting and engaging your students, how to foster that. The next question is, has technology enhanced your teaching practices? To what extent? And finally, how will you integrate technology into your teaching after the current pandemic? So I wonder if any one of you, if any of you would like to share any views regarding these ideas. You can also take a look at the questions in the chat box. So now we've got a few minutes to hear from you. Maybe Eliana, you'd like to tell us about any of your views regarding these questions?
You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, any of the 4 questions. You can
Okay.
address any of those 4 questions.
What have you learned from your experience teaching 100% online? Okay, according to that questions, I think I can tell you that I have learned that I really like teaching English, right? That's the first thing, right? I have learned many things really, but I'm going to answer them with the other questions, okay? It says, what have you focused on during remote teaching? The content, your methodology, interacting and engaging your students. I would say that I have focused on my methodology and also on interacting and engaging with my students, because it's very important to keep them engaged in the class, right? Has technology enhanced your teaching practices? How? What do you mean with this question? Has technology enhanced your teaching practices?
Like your methodology, whether technology in general, resources have been useful for you to teach and help your students learn English in particular.
Yes, I think they have been. And I have learned many other ways also. I mean, I have learned to use different tools to work with the students online, okay? Those that are in the different platforms according to the university you are teaching, right? They have different tools. I have also introduced another ones like Palette, Quizlet, many others. I have learned a lot during this time. How will you integrate technology into your teaching?
That's about the future.
About the future. I would like to continue working with on internet, because on internet I have many resources to teach in English, so it is easier to teach, to go from one website to the other, move and show the students according to the class and according to their questions and all that. So I like to teach using these technologies. I really like them. I think that's what I can tell you.
Thank you very much, Eliana, for sharing your views with the audience and with us as well. Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to say something or refer to any of these 4 questions? Any other views, any other comments? Yeah, Miguel.
Yeah, I don't want to show from my presentation for you to keep the the surprise, but the second question seems to me that it's a combination. I mean, we have gone through different stages. Like at the beginning, we just wanted to focus on our students' emotional states. And then when we say, okay, 100% online, so what are we going to do about it? What kind of methodologies are we going to use? And then we had to grade the contents, had to cut it down, had to re-gear the content towards topics that that deals to some extent with what's going on with the pandemic. So for that question number 2, I think it's at different points we did different things and we addressed different issues in the learning process.
Thank you very much. Now I will leave you with Victor. Okay, so as you can see, we've got different views and perspectives regarding EFL teaching and learning. And now Victor will introduce you to one specific concept. So Victor, over to you.
So hello everyone. I forgot to
Hello.
say hi. Well, thanks for tuning in, obviously. And before we go right into today's talk, we would like you to think about that word, what we have on the screen. So eco-pedagogy. So I'd like you to take 3 minutes to first click on that link and share. Now I can share and share your ideas, what you think eco-pedagogy is, whatever comes to your mind related to eco-pedagogy. So please click on that link and you just need to choose one of the post-its you have on your right, and then you can write your answers. And once you're done with your answer, please don't forget to sign with your name. So if you're not sure about what eco-pedagogy is, that's okay, because that's what we will be dealing with today. So that's an example of how you can post your answers. So take some time to think about eco-pedagogy and then share your answer on a post-it. You can choose the color of your post-it. So whatever comes to your mind regarding eco-pedagogy. If you don't know anything about what that is, that's okay. Okay, very good. So to me, it was also a new term, eco-pedagogy. And hopefully today we will find out more about what eco-pedagogy is. So take about 3 minutes. We have one response. Thank you very much. You can always sign with your name if you want.
Yeah, there's another one underneath, I think, Victor. There's another post-it there.
Okay. Information that you can reuse. So let's see. We have lots of different questions. Environmentally friendly in terms of the resources used throughout one's place. First time I see it, okay, but some perhaps best administrator according to the teaching methodology by EFL, ESL instructors. Thank you, Daniel. Maybe a curriculum based on ecology and sustainability. Okay, so thank you very much for your answers. And now, Francisco, we can continue. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Victor, for the activity. Well, the moment has come. So now I've got the honor to introduce you to Miguel Farias. Professor Farias is a full-time academic and professor at Universidad de Santiago de Chile. He works for the English teaching training program there. He teaches linguistics and other subjects. He holds a PhD in literature and linguistics from the Catholic University of America. And he also has a master's degree in applied linguistics from University of Athens in the USA. He happens to be, of course, a teacher of English as well, and he's now going to present his topic entitled ELT, Before, During, and After the Pandemic, the Unaccomplished Hidden Curriculum. So, Professor Farias, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you, Francisco and Victor. And let me see if I can start sharing the screen here. Okay, there you are. Well, the title of this talk is going to be emphasizing the during, and the key concept there is the hidden curriculum that has been unaccomplished. From the very beginning, what I'm going to say is that when I got this invitation and Francisco sent me a few ideas, I said, well, what's happening with the pandemic and with us as teachers of English? So I started to think about it, and then there's a lot that has not been accomplished, particularly in terms of communication. So see if I can move my, there you are, okay. Are the slides passing? Are they changing? Yes. Okay. So no need to repeat that now we are secluded, and that this nice meeting that we could have had it at UDLA somewhere, sharing some drinks or coffee, or it is taken here, in which all of us are secluded in our homes, where that it became the classroom. Okay. So the first premise that I have is that this 100% online distance learning has led to disembodied communication. That is a communication where I'm not smelling, I don't know the gaze in Eliana's look. I don't know what gestures she might be using, and so on and so forth. It has divested communication from that more humane and personal touch, okay? So as I mentioned, the home becomes a classroom through a network community that is supported internet connectivity. If there was no internet connectivity, this would not be possible. And this has also caused problems because it has exacerbated differences in social class. People with a very strong connectivity for which you have to pay, whereas there are other people that have very low connectivity, or that can connect through their phones, okay? Or that ask somebody else to share internet connection with them. So going back to your questions, so one first reaction was, okay, we need to address the socio-emotional dimension in the learning process, because that is what that is the most urgent demand, okay? Universities were closing, schools were closing, students were kept at home, locked down without the social contacts with others, and that caused cognitive and mental problems. So we need to address that. So at the beginning, when we started teaching, okay, lots of sessions were dedicated to diagnose how learners were, whether their families were in good health conditions, whether they had the means, whether somebody had got the disease, the COVID, so on and so forth, okay? So this whole pandemic will create a COVID-19 generation that has going to be marked by closeness and distance to learning, okay? Some people have made efforts to continue the learning process through technologies, but others have been shy to it, have moved away from it, and that is going to mark that generation. The second response was, well, in these conditions, there can be a topic that can be useful to bridge this gap, this distance, to make learning more meaningful and significant for the particular context in which these learners, and there was where environmental education or environmental literacy as eco-pedagogy came into play, okay? Now, I should move forward, but let me start with eco-literacy first, okay? This eco-literacy, it needs to be understood under the general umbrella of the multi-literacies that was launched or created by the New London group with Günter Kress and others that came to the realization that citizens and people around the world were needing other competencies, other skills that were necessary to survive in this world, that were not necessarily the traditional literacy as we knew it until then. The traditional literacy that we knew it until then was the mechanical ability to decode the printed page, okay? And so they say, no, there's more than that, okay? So this eco-literacy then is part of those multiple literacy, and it includes at least 3 main dimensions, okay? Knowledge, skills, and motivations. For us, teachers of English, eco-literacy and environmental education, it is not just a list of specialized vocabulary on the environment. It is not that, okay? Why? Because it also includes attitudes and behavior, okay? So some of the researchers in this field say that it has 3 dimensions: the nominal, the functional, and the operational, okay? In which you need to move from knowing into acting, okay? However, let's take also a critical position with respect to this, okay? This eco-literacy, this environmental education comes from the global north, these ideas, okay? So this environmental education is also colonized by this epistemic constructs that come from the global north. Okay, and here is the answer to the question that Victor posted on the pad. I don't know what the line on the one that you were using. This eco-pedagogy is more like an umbrella concept. It's more like a philosophy education, okay? And it comes from the theory and practice of critical pedagogy by Paulo Freire. By the way, Paulo Freire, last Sunday, we celebrated 100 years of Paulo Freire, okay? And there were a lot of activities around the world for that occasion, okay? So the mission of eco-pedagogy is to develop a robust appreciation of the collective potentials of humanity and to foster social justice throughout the world, okay? So this eco-pedagogy is more of a philosophy of education for teachers of English to follow in their teaching practice. It is future-oriented, is ecological, and has a political vision that radically opposes globalization ideologies as neoliberalism and imperialism. And at the same time, it attempts to foment forms of critical eco-literacy. You're going to say, well, that's political. Education is political, okay? So this is a way to teach this eco-pedagogy with the influence from Paulo Freire is a way to create constructs and concepts that comes from the contextual Latin American context, okay? So I thought, well, this is going to be then an opportunity to deal with eco-literacy, environmental education under the umbrella of eco-pedagogy, okay? Understand then the pandemic can be understood then as a biological and social process, okay? To understand the impact on the natural and natural habitats, okay? The role of the Anthropocene in creating this pandemic and in creating all the problems that we're having in this crisis, okay? And to understand the positive and negative effects of the pandemic. There you have some positive effect, there you have some negative effects, okay? And in general, environmental education and environmental literacy leads to, as I said at the beginning, embodied and meaningful learning for human development. And we're going to see some of the activities that I did in a course that I taught using eco-literacy, okay? Briefly, here you have a slide that we discussed in this course that I taught on eco-literacy of the positive and negative effects of the pandemic. And there people share their own ideas and people show pictures, for example, of Venice and the canals in Venice being clean and you could see fish. And then people talk about condors and pumas coming into their natural habitats that had been recovered because the Anthropocenic present receded, okay? What is interesting here is in the negative effects of the pandemic. It is the use of masks, it is the waste from hospitals and all that. And then, as I said at the beginning, you understand here, okay, the pandemic in terms of the interrelations between ecosystem, okay? And there you have humans, and then there's wildlife, there's livestock, and this here is it's a little problem that we saw for one of the hypotheses why the pandemic started. It was this zoonotic impact on human life. Okay. Another example there of how the cases started. Okay, you can see there are wild animal cases, domestic and animal cases, and human cases. Okay, and here is the what is called the amplification, because when the virus is in the wildlife, okay, it is under control, but when it comes to human beings, it becomes uncontrolled. So this proposal by the OMS, I'm going to go very, very quickly. It is just One Health, that is at this combination of human, environmental, and animal health. Okay. The key concept then is eco-literacy, and as I said at the beginning, it deals with knowledge, competencies, dispositions, or attitudes towards the environment. Touch when we introduce eco-literacy into the courses that we teach. One thing that is interesting and that you're seeing in that slide, that I hope you're seeing, that you might think is a spider web. It is a spider web, okay? But what is interesting here, and for us teachers, is that to the question, what is your main source in terms of environmental information, okay? For this population, this is not Chile, okay? But for the PISA population, okay, it is the school. The school here in red is the one that provides most of the information for these participants in terms of all these environmental problems: air pollution, energy shortage, extinction of animals, clearing of forests for other land use, water shortage, and nuclear waste, okay? So this water shortage is one that we're going to be facing pretty soon here for this long 13-year drought that we're going through, okay? So with this diagram, what I'm saying is that the importance of school to provide information about the environment, okay? Now, quickly moving right ahead, in this course that I taught, the final project was design a project to introduce environmental literacy in your own teaching of English. And this is one of the projects in which the student wrote an introduction, talked about the curricular background, and what is really interesting is that he found instruments to measure or to assess 3 types of involvement with the environment, okay? That I'm going to show in this slide that I hope you're seeing, okay? With the test that he found out, okay, he realized that that test measured egoistic attitudes. That is when you center the environment in yourself, when you believe you're the center of the world, so to say. Altruistic, when you believe, it's me and others. And then biospheric, when you find that there are interrelations between you and the environment, that you're part of the environment, okay? So those 3 attitudes lead to the creation of a new ecological paradigm, okay, where you become aware of the consequences of the intrusion and manipulation and abuse of human beings into the environment, and then you ascribe responsibility to it. You create your personal norms, and you create an environmental behavior, okay? This is a test that was used to measure those 3 types of attitudes, okay? From 1 to 15, some deal with the egoistic, some deal with the altruistic, and some deal with the biospheric attitudes. Now, since I think I don't know, I haven't time myself, but with this example that I was showing to you from my student that wrote this project on how to introduce environmental literacy into the teaching of English, what I'm saying is that that is a very interesting piece of research that you can engage. You can engage your students in environmental literacy, in eco-literacy, okay? So that, that you promote attitudes that are beneficial for the environment. And you move from this position, the egoistic position that has caused all the problems that we're facing today, because this is the extractivist position in which we are the owners of nature. Nature should yield, and it is an endless source of benefits for human being. To this other position, okay, that is the eco position, in which you are part of the different systems that make up life, okay? So with this example of a project, what I'm saying is that it is a very interesting activity to carry out, to do research. And for example, with that instrument that I show you with those 15 questions, okay, you may find in your groups of people that there might be people that are more egoistic, there might be others that are more altruistic, there are others that are more biospheric. And in any kind of research, what you do is you also cross variables, okay? So you may have hypotheses saying, okay, in the school that I teach in Barrio Alto, there will be more egoistic attitudes. Whereas in the school that I teach in another part of town, I may find more altruistic, okay? Because it might depend. Or you may cross gender. You may say maybe women are more altruistic than men, and so on and so forth. But this gives you tips to do research. So with this idea, then what I'm suggesting is that we move from a view of learning that is arboreal, that is vertical, that is univocal, like this one, okay? The traditional division between competence and performance, and so on and so forth, that we move on to a view that is more rhizomatic, okay? In which the learning of English and the learning of the language establish relations with other semiotic dimensions, like emotions, mind, the body, and as it says here, polysemiotic resources. This, in turn, and this is to finish, okay, this in turn is a different view of education, of learning, or knowledge management, as some people would say, okay? The arboreal perspective and the rhizomatic perspective, okay? So during the pandemic, we become aware of this, And after the pandemic, okay, this is the way to go, okay? Because after the pandemic, we're going to realize that the report by the International Panel on Climate Change is saying that we need to take a global view on nature and not be anymore with this arboreal view in which we are unaware of our of the damages that we're causing to the environment that has led to the situation that we are undergoing today. Okay, so that is the benefit of introducing eco-literacy under the general umbrella of an eco-pedagogy, which is also known in Portuguese as pedagogia do terra. Okay, so the hidden curriculum, okay, you can exploit the hidden curriculum by introducing this topic. Okay, the hidden curriculum, it is the emotional, the affective, and the proximity to the natural habitats that are lost with this online teaching, okay? Because we believe that this is going to be transitory, but for some people say, this is going to stay here forever, okay? So that's the point, that these dimensions of the hidden curriculum that are not present in online, you can introduce them with these ideas on eco-literacy and eco-pedagogy. Okay, and there are the references. So I'm going to go back to my first slide. I don't know which one is, I guess that will be, I will live with that, because that was the question that Victor asked.
Yeah, we thank you so much, Professor Farias, for sharing your interesting talk on eco-pedagogy, which I'm sure will be quite important for the Language Institute and for our teachers and academics within the team, and also for current research and also potential research in the future for all researchers within the Language Institute. Now, we've got 10 minutes for the audience. So if you want to share some questions, any comments from our audience now. Are there any questions, comments? You can also use the chat box.
There's one question there in the chat. There's no single author that has coined the term, these terms. Eco-literacy has been worked by researchers in Great Britain and the US, and if a name needs to be mentioned, I would say Steves. I'm going to write it in the chat. Okay. And again, for eco-pedagogy, is people. It's not just one single person, but for eco-pedagogy, is people at the Instituto Paulo Freire in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Eliana, that's an interesting question also, okay? Yes, that's a good association that you're making there with Moran's complexity. Actually, in language teaching, like I showed you at the very beginning, with that rhizomatic view, okay, language teaching and second language acquisition has moved into more systemic views of language learning, in which there is no linearity, okay? But with the exploration into chaos theory and complexity theory, okay, language learning now is seen more into an ecological habitat, so to say. And the other question from Hector, good to see you here, Hector, okay? Will this view change language teaching programs in the future? I hope so. I hope so. I believe that the whole world has come, or is maybe Chile is slowly coming to an awareness, but the world is coming to an awareness that we cannot go on in this capitalistic, extractivist position, abusing of nature, and I guess that is the future. I mean, the international panel on the international panel on climate change, the IPCC, okay, has already mentioned that we are not going back from 1. It is 1.5, okay? That is global warming. The temperature of the Earth will keep 1.5 above the normal, so to say. And we're quickly going into 2 point. So the idea is to stop. The idea is to stop now. So yes, the language teaching programs will take a more ecological view of language learning and language teaching.
Yeah, there's another question there that says, what would you say is the main challenge for an eco-pedagogy here in Chile?
The main challenge for an eco-pedagogy here in Chile is the current policies in education that emphasize competition and the individual and production, okay? It is a capitalistic view of education, okay, that does not take into consideration these dimensions that we have just here discussed, okay? Here we're not talking about productivity in terms of producing for the market, okay? Here we're talking about self-sufficiency. We're talking about sovereignty. That's a difficult word to pronounce. Sovereignty, soberanía. What people call soberanía alimenticia also, right? Did some research on human language based on human. Yes. Yes, Paula. Okay. Yes, those are sister ideas. Okay. Humane education or humanistic education. Okay.
And there is another question. I think Eliana shared another interesting question. It's, in practical terms, how would you put into practice this idea in a language plan? I mean, this concept. What would it change from the traditional point of view? So concretely speaking, how would you apply this to an EFL class?
Yes. Concretely speaking, you can start with this. You can start with an activity called mapping the community. Mapping the community. Okay. In that activity of mapping the community, you involve your learners into going into their closest communities and identify and describe an environmental problem that is affecting their community. okay? There you have a significant use of the language that you can exploit in the classroom, because they will bring pictures, they will bring pamphlets, they will bring information from the municipalidad that they went to ask for stuff, and then you can use it. This brings into the classroom contextualized learning. Here you're not dealing with the problems of the kids in Chernobyl after that disaster. Okay, it's important to know the dangers of radioactivity. Okay, but what about if we talk about a problem that is closer to us, and that makes learning much more meaningful because you are addressing a problem in your own community. And following Paulo Freire, remember that Paulo Freire did not start teaching how to read using the word casa. He started teaching how to read using the word favela, because that was closer to the reality of his learners.
Thank you very much, Professor Farias. And now we'll move into the last activity now. So Victor, over to you.
Okay, so to wrap it up, very similar to what we did a couple of minutes ago, let me share another link, and there you can post your answers. So what do you take away from eco-pedagogy? So how can this inform your teaching practices, whether you are teaching online or face-to-face? So how can this inform your teaching practices? And of course, taking into consideration what's happening in regards to climate change, the environment in general. So any activities that you may think of similar to the mapping community that Professor Farias mentioned? So,
Sorry, before I forget, let me just say something. I posted in the chat the name. That's the North American Association of Environmental Education, that has lots of material on environmental education for all sorts of schools. Okay, and my students are such have participated in. They have forums, they have webinars, they have all sorts of activities, and you can use those to bring ideas to your own classroom.
So a lot to do besides from teaching linguistic aspects. So add more topics, and so that students can be more aware of what's going on. So helping them, we can help future generations. So anything you take away from today's talk? So opportunities to do some research, include related activities. And probably we can also use eco-pedagogy or eco-literacy to establish social presence. That's something that we have missed during these online teaching times. There we have another question. Based on Pablo Freire's theory and considers the surrounding culture to teach a language. And is related to Moran's theory of complexity.
We can do that, Eliana, definitely. What about if we write a paper? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see an opportunity for research.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You can apply that instrument with a group of learners, and from that get data and explore it from there. I just wanted to say also that in terms of it being a political issue, that the idea to introduce climate change into the school that was introduced by President Bachelet came from the Ministry of the Environment and not from the Ministry of Education. So there we have a problem in that those two ministries don't engage in dialogue. Okay. Whereas in Argentina, what they did was a national bill was passed for all schools in Argentina to introduce environmental education.
Huge difference, of course.
And there we have an interesting link between eco-pedagogy and project-based learning. So very closely related to what Professor Farias mentioned about the mapping community. So have students do something, put forward something that can help improve their communities by doing or carrying out a project.
Maybe it's possible to link this, yes.
Yes. Yes, okay. It can be worked with task-based, problem-based, or project-based, because they have those different names, task-based, project-based, problem-posing education.
Okay, thanks for sharing your thoughts on eco-pedagogy. And thanks for your participation.
Okay, everybody, we've reached the end of the seminar. We thank everybody for joining, especially Professor Farias for having accepted this invitation, and of course for sharing some insightful ideas. And now we can see an opportunity also for further research and also potential talks in the future. So again, thank you very much, Professor Farias, and everybody who attended the seminar. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.